I'm Bambi Francisco with Vader News with this segment of Lessons for Entrepreneurs, and I'm speaking with Brian Steele. He is the CEO of Volo Media. Brian, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Bambi.
You've been around entrepreneurs for 2 decades, and now you're at the helm of a startup. So what are some of the lessons you've learned from entrepreneurs that you've worked with over the last 20 years, and what are you bringing to the startup today?
Well, I think ultimately, because being a simple guy, I like to keep it simple, so there's really 3 things. Comes down to potential and people and priorities. Potential means, is the business big enough to be worthwhile? At the end of the day, we each only have 24 hours a day to contribute to whatever we're doing. Same as for investors. And so the real question is it a market that's large enough? Is it growing? Or is your piece of it, your part of the value chain, going to be large enough to be sufficiently interesting? Because if it's not, it's going to be tough to attract great talent. It's going to be tough to attract capital and so on. So the first thing is the potential for the business, but that also means the business model. So is the type of business one that's going to have sufficient margins and sufficient growth that it's, again, worthwhile? Second thing is people. You've got to have great people. One of the things you learn quickly as a CEO of a small company is you're the proverbial head cook and bottle washer. And if you don't have really great people throughout the team, not just your VPs, but throughout the team, you're relying on those people to keep their head down, to code, to sell, to run the business, because you're off raising money, you're off, there's a lot of administrative work. And one of the things they don't tell you about in the CEO brochure is prepare to be chief administrative officer on a lot of stuff you might never have touched before. HR matters, administering the stock option plan, and so on. So you've got to hire great people. And of course, water does flow downhill. And if you don't start at the top with a really cracked team, it's very tough for them to attract good people who want to be mentored by them and so on. And the third thing is priorities. You're always going to be short on time, short on people, short on capital, short on runway. And so you've got to really know what you got to do every day, because your team has to be self-calibrating. And if you can't stop any person in the hallway and say, what are the company's priorities? And if they can't name those on one hand and hopefully have a finger or two to spare, then you actually don't have any priorities. So you've really got to know what you intend to accomplish, and to make sure you've got milestones along the way so that you know that you're tracking. You can't start in January and say, here's our year's objectives, and then hope miraculously come the holidays to get there. You've got to have interim checkpoints and to have those priorities along the way calibrated. So
very good.
Potential people and priorities.
Potential,
and of course,
people,
the
priorities.
Fourth one you can do nothing about, and that's timing. And you better just hope you got lucky with timing, because that's a tough one to really control.
Well, sometimes it's all about being prepared.
Prepared.
And then you're lucky.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your insight, Brian.
Thanks, Bambi.
I've been speaking with Brian Steele. He is the CEO of Volo Media. I'm Bambi Francisco.